Hello everybody, it's me, Walter the Germany Ball, finally back with Console Conversations, Season 4. This is the last episode before the first of two July hiatuses, so I'm going to go real quick on a little update about what's been happening with Console Conversations and what's going to be happening in July with the channel as a whole. Originally, I planned to have all of June and July off. And then come back with the downfall of Walter the German Ball. Then I changed it to just July. Now I'm changing it to just the first week of July and the last week of July. Simple as that. With Console Conversations, episode 3 of Season 4 was planned to be an E3 recap, but it didn't work. I had to delay it like twice, and then I'm just like, no, this is not going to happen, because it was just too hard to get done, and my audio software kept failing. It just didn't work out, so I made the episode 4 that I had already done with Doghorn Animations. I made that episode 3, and then this is episode 4. So if that's not confusing somehow, then good, let's continue. So what am I here to talk about today? The Atari VCS. So, back in July, on July 1st, 2020, I'm doing it early because I'll be on a hiatus on July 1st. That'll be the first day of the hiatus. I made a Console Conversation Season 2, Episode 6, talking about the Atari VCS, which is a new Atari console. It was very short. It's the shortest Console Conversations to date. And now that it's been almost about a year, let's talk about it. Because people hated that video, apparently. It's my most disliked video of all time, and my most controversial video as a result. People in the comments were mad. People were saying things like, oh, you didn't say this properly, this was inaccurate. Well, now I've prepared for this, so hopefully this is more accurate. One person even told me that I'd be making a video on how awesome it was after 6 months. Well, now it's been about 12 months, so let's see how awesome I think it is now. I hope everyone is watching, because, and no, I'm not doing this video to rub it in people's faces. I'm actually looking at the Atari VCS critically now that it's pretty much launched. So let's see. This is Atari's official website that I'm going to show on screen right now. PC Console Hybrid. Introducing the Atari Video Computer System. Unmatched versatility for gaming, entertainment, and productivity. Now, from the trailers, and I'll give them huge credit for this, they seem to be integrating streaming, PC gaming, all of that into the console experience, which is awesome. That's a really cool idea. That's really funky and weird, and, you know, it's really unique. So let's look. An icon reimagined. Atari returns to the living room with Atari VCS. Modern gaming and video computer system, blending the best of consoles and PCs to delight a whole new generation of gamers and creators. Now, this is something important. All of the big three currently have some way of capturing footage, but it's limited. Like, especially on the Switch, you can only record the last 30 seconds. That's it. Nothing else. On PlayStation, it's and I know nothing about Xbox other than it is pretty open. But on PlayStation, it's also pretty open, but there are scenes that are blocked because they don't want people showing them, so people buy capture cards to override that. But, you know, the regular capture feature works perfectly fine for me on there. And this is going to try to empower creators even more. Really cool. There's an Atari mode where you're treating it like a console. You can unlock a customizable multimedia PC for unmatched freedom and versatility, and I think you connect it to your PC. So now we're going to look at before we look at the games, let's look at the pricing. This is all coming from Atari, okay? So before we get into all these other things I'm going to show you guys, we need to first go over what Atari themselves have to say. Because if anyone's going to make this console look good and make the case for this console, it's going to be Atari. So, I'm going to go over what big gaming publications are saying, yes. And if you think those are hugely biased and whatnot, and I don't blame you because IGN can be kind of stupid sometimes, and I'm going over their review of it. If you think that's a bad idea, then let's look at Atari's first. Let's see how good Atari makes it look, and then compare it to people who have actually used it, whether they're in some way wrong. Comparing it to this, we can hopefully come to the right conclusion. So let's look at the pricing. So Atari VCS Black Walnut all-in bundle. You get the console, an old school style controller, and a new school style controller. $399.99. $400. I don't know what that is in pounds, so sorry for my UK people out there. I know I'm one of you. $400. Okay, so you're getting 2 controllers and the system for $400. Now, the PS5 is $500 and is the console with the controller and the cables you need, obviously. But it also comes with Astro's Playroom and all that. But whatever. So you're getting pretty much the same thing as PS5, but you're getting an extra controller. The controllers are $60 each. Which for the modern controller, I can totally understand. It's wireless, all that. Then we got this wireless classic joystick. This shouldn't be $60. It looks really nice, but think of how much effort this probably took. Probably not much. And in the trailers, all they were talking about was how cool the controller looked. Yeah, it looks cool, but unless it's some game-changing thing, you don't need to be charging that amount of money for it, when it's this classic thing. You can either have it's a classic thing, but it's hugely innovative, weird, crazy idea that's so cool, new features, and charge $60. Or you can charge $60 for a modern style controller because, that's what you're going up against with your competition. And the controllers look cool and all, yeah. But come on, $60 for the joystick is a bit much, but we're going to be fair. Let's assume that these are great controllers, right? So, we have this. So you're basically paying $399. And I got comments saying it's not $400. That's for the all-in bundle. Okay, on their own website, they don't have a listing for a different version. And I looked, and it's $280 for I believe, just the console. So great, you don't even have a controller to play with? Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? We have all this stuff down here about the partnerships that they're doing with Chrome and AMD and PowerA and whatever. So now let's look at games from Atari themselves. We can look at the games that are gonna be brought to us. So take a look at this. Have you played Atari today? That's kind of cute. The Atari VCS game store is loaded with great modern and classic game, including Antstream's arcades, huge retro library, unique indie favorites, HD games, streaming services, and PC mode. Hold on. Including Antstream Arcade's huge retro library. So we got a retro library, unique indie favorites, HD game streaming services. There's nothing about AAA. Consider that. No AAA. We're not seeing any AAA stuff here. No. So let's look. Atari VCS Vault. 100 of Atari's most popular arcade and home classics are included free with every Atari VCS system. Cool. 100 old games for free. That's a pretty good deal. Now optimized for the new controllers. And you can add 50 additional games that are from the 5200 and 2600. Cool. No 7800 and Jaguar. I'm kind of annoyed about that, but whatever. Great. You have retro stuff. basically complete Atari package. But it's $400, so maybe I want a little more than 2 games I can already get on my PC for literally, I believe it's $15 to get both those on Steam. No joke. No joke. And it's not like, anyone with a computer could play those. Anyone with Steam could play those. They're not graphically intensive at all. So I'm operating on a super, an old laptop. Not very old, but, a somewhat old laptop. Not the most up-to-date thing. Not powerful. Not a desktop PC. I'm operating on a little laptop. I don't play games on it, really. I could run it. I could pay $15 and play all these Atari games easily. Or I could use the flashbacks on PS Now. They have those for free. Let's look. We got innovative indie games. Now, indie games I don't usually associate with, innovation as much as AAA, but whatever. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So let's look. Atari VCS is focused on showcasing creative games from independent developers and small to mid-sized studios to new audiences. Recapture the excitement of discovery and simple joys that the original Atari 2600 video computer system brought to millions of households. That's it? That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. So, we have nothing about what the games actually are. We just have, indie games, which you can play anywhere else, keep in mind. Antstream Arcade. Thousands of arcade hits. Antstream Arcade gives you access to a massive library of classic arcade games. Okay, cool. Retro ROMs and emulation. Atari VCS is a modern system, but with the soul of the past. Atari has added retro console, arcade, and PC game emulators into the VCS operating system. Okay, is that legal? I don't know if that's legal completely, but look, they have Food Fight. They have Food Fight. So, oh my God, this is greatest console ever, I guess. Okay, no joke. Food Fight is one of my favorite arcade game. My favorite arcade game ever. It's addicting and fun, and I love it to pieces. And I'd like, I'd like a way to play it on modern consoles. But I'm not going to spend $400 for it. And, okay, emulation. So then we have games playable now on Atari VCS. So let's look. Atari games. Atari VCS Vault. Atari VCS Vault Volume 2. Missile Command Recharged. And boom! Nothing else. Isn't that interesting, Atari? You have 3 games, all of which are available in other places. Great. Indian retro games. A bunch of things. I'm going to look through these. I've never heard of these. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 whole games. Damn, Atari, slow down. We have Antstream Arcade, Air Console, Stadia. Okay, on their own website, they have made this look like a complete piece of garbage. 18 indie games, 3 Atari games, which all are available in other places, and Stadia. How is this a good console? Can someone explain to me why my video complaining about this has more dislikes than any other video I've made? I mean, I have talked down Xbox, one of the biggest game companies of all time, so many times. I've said I love The Last Guardian, which people hate, and that I don't like Shadow of the Colossus. I love The Last of Us 2, and no one really showed me any hate for that on my channel. If you want to, go ahead. But this? No. If you hate me for this, come on, man. I'd like, if you disagree with me here, instead of telling me a comment about how I'm going to love this thing, tell me what value does this thing bring. Because right now you could say, oh, streaming, oh, the blah, blah, blah. I can do that on my phone or my computer. What's the point of spending $400 on a system with no games to do things I can do anywhere else? It's just nonsensical. This is one of the worst console launches I've seen, and this is from Atari's own website. So now let's go over to what PC Gamer is saying. Their article is called, "You Can Buy an Official Atari Console Again If You've Lost All Self-Respect." I got this notification in my newsfeed. I got a notification for it. I saw it. I knew I had to talk about this. That's when I knew. The Atari VCS actually exists, but remains wildly overpriced for what it is. Keep that in mind. Spending $400 on a console is not bad. Don't get me wrong. For what it is. Those are the key words. Following years of delays, the new Atari VCS system has officially launched. What do you mean you're not intrigued by a nice box with a low-power original Zen embedded CPU for $300 or $400 with controller? They sum it up perfectly in the first paragraph. I mean, perfectly. It's hardly surprising that a company that's tried selling everything from fantasy hotels to NFTs should produce an underpowered and overpriced device. Though to give credit where credit is due, I suppose making anything during the contemporary chip shortage is an achievement. Atari's vision of a Linux machine with other games you can download is, however, unlikely to persist in the long term. That's all you need to hear from PC Gamer. They sum it up perfectly, right there. Overpriced for what it is. Underpowered. No games. So now let's look over here at IGN's official review of the console. It is Console Conversations, after all. So we say, the modern retro Atari VCS was announced with much fanfare when it first hit Indiegogo in May 2018. People were excited to secure a pre-order for the first new Atari console since the Atari Jaguar. It said it's blending the best of consoles and PCs. We saw that. The system is nothing more than a watered-down combination of a console and a PC. It sets out to do some interesting things, but it doesn't do anything unique, and it doesn't do anything well. It definitely doesn't justify its price tag. So design and features. We have Onyx and Black Walnut, which both, in my opinion, look cool. You know, it's not that bad. And then on the back, 2 USB ports, HDMI cable, Ethernet, AC adapter, power button. So the power button's not even on the front, it's on the back. What's wrong with this archaic machine? Atari VCS Gaming. The Atari VCS Vault contains a decent selection of Atari 2600 and 1980s arcade classics. Some of my favorite old Atari 2600 games are here, like Yar's Revenge. But then there are some weird choices like Basic Math. There are also a lot of sports games. I don't even like playing sports games from 2 years ago. I definitely don't have any nostalgia for bowling on the Atari 2600. Out of over 80 Atari 2600 included with the VCS, 17 are straight sports games. Wow. Wow. I didn't count all the racing games, of which there are plenty. There are some classics on here, like Missile Command Adventure and a couple of others, but overall it's a weak selection. They have a weak selection of Atari 2600 games. How do you even do that? It's like one of the easiest consoles to pick out good games for. It had a little over 300 games, I think, released throughout its lifespan, which is not a lot, keep in mind. So you take all the stuff released for it, I'm sure you could easily take a third of the library and have every good game on the system. So I don't blame them for having bad games on there, because there are so many mediocre and bad games in the library and not many good games. But come on, if IGN's saying you don't have all the good games out of 300 and you have a third of a console's library, what are you even doing? You know? Then they say, speaking of 4K, don't even bother. You can change the resolution in the settings to 720p, 1080p, or 4K. I don't know why you'd want to experience Atari 2600 Asteroids in 4K, but it's an option. This is the problem with this thing. It has no new big games. If they had a new Pitfall that was like Uncharted, if it was an Uncharted complete cash grab ripoff of Uncharted, but they at least put a ton of effort into it, it looked really nice, had an interesting story, it was somewhat unique, a good game, even though it was kind of a ripoff of Uncharted, but it's a new Pitfall game, 3D big game, I'd be like amazed. I'd be astounded. I would be like, okay, maybe this console has some promise. And they had a few other games. No, no. They focused on making this, and they're not even saying they're saying it's underpowered. It's underpowered. But here's the thing. They're trying to push its limits by making it 4K. You can play in 4K. So it's underpowered, so they're trying to push the limits of the system to make it look like it's justified in its price tag. But there's no reason to push those limits. You could play Asteroids in 480p and it would be totally just as playable as in 4K. Simple as that. You have the PC mode. If you have a bootable thumb drive with an operating system on it, you can use the Atari VCS's PC mode to turn the device into a tiny functional PC. That's kind of cool, but why not just buy a PC? Now let's look at their final verdict before we get into the last article. The Atari VCS costs too much and does too little for me to recommend it. Its 4K mode is pretty pointless, other than it makes for a nice marketing bullet point. The number of built-in games is impressive on paper, but there are too few games you'd actually want to play, and many games that didn't age well. PC mode is poorly implemented, doesn't make a lot of sense. It would be better to just install PC software on a glorified emulation machine. If you want a $300 machine to emulate old games, buy an Xbox Series X. At least it comes with the controller for that price. And they gave it a 5. Which is dumb. Yeah, 100% stupid. It should... Why? 5? You literally said nothing good about it. How is it a 5? This is like a 2. I mean, in all honesty, like it looks cool, I guess, and it can do some cool things. That's it. Everything else sucks. The marketing's terrible, because I didn't even know it existed until I went digging and became an Atari freak after playing Food Fight. 5 is a bad score. But if you're looking at IGN, if they give something a 5 when they gave Mass Effect... What did they give Mass Effect Andromeda? I'm wondering. I think I'm remembering that they gave it a 7 out of 10. I think so. Yeah, a 7.7. They gave it almost an 8. This is a broken down mess of game. Just watch any video about it online. Terrible game. Almost an 8. So when they give your console a 5, you really screwed up. Simple as that. Now, let's look at this last thing. Atari VCS release date, games, price, and everything you need to know. So this is a more positive one, right? Well, let's look at the release date and price. It's going to launch on June 15th. So it launched around 12 days ago. Almost 2 weeks ago. I've seen no one talking about it other than that PC Gamer article. That's all I've seen in my newsfeed. Everything else I had to dig through I had to dig through to get to because no one's been talking about it. You can get the base level model in Onyx for $300. You could pick up an all-in system bundle that comes with 2 controllers, the classic joystick and the modern controller for $400. Okay, and you have 2 color schemes. So we know that. Let's look at the specs real quick. So, we have a Ryzen GPU, blah, blah, blah. It weighs 3 pounds. So, kind of a chibi little console. We have, is that much? I don't know how much the PS5 weighs, but it seems pretty small. 32 gigabytes of storage. 32 gigabytes of internal storage. 8 gigabytes of RAM. Wow. Just wow. HDMI 2.0. HDMI 2.0. Really? This is kind of insane to me, honestly. And this is it. We have Atari VCS games. Let's look at it. What good is a console if it doesn't have great games to play on it? Luckily, the VCS will ship with the Atari Vault. And Atari says that the VCS will also be able to play favorite indies and AAA games too. I like how it's been over 2 years since they announced this thing on Indiegogo. And nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We have no word of AAA games. Nothing. Atari owns the rights to more than 200 different video game properties in Pong, Missile Command, Asteroid Centipede. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you're forgetting about Adventure, Pitfall. I don't know. Zool. They don't own Zool, I don't think. Tempest, Food Fight. Come on, Atari is not bad. I actually like Atari in a weird way. Like the Atari 2600, a lot of people like it, and I get it. There are good games on there, like Haunted House. There are good games on there, you know. Then we have the 5200, and the 5200 is kind of a mess, but I still kind of like it because it's just a weird little nifty piece of game history, but it is a terrible console. The 7800 is a terrible console as well because it has almost nothing to offer, but it has Food Fight, so I actually like it, and it can play 2600 games, so it's actually, if you can find one online, I'd recommend buying it because you can play Food Fight and 2600 games. Why not? You know? Jaguar also sucks, but I still kind of like it. But this one, it just sucks. There's nothing cool about it. It's new. So I can't look back into the past at this console I had never heard of until a year ago and go, "Oh, what's this?" And I research it and I dig up this like ancient lost console. I'm infatuated with these old consoles that no one talks about and that people hate, because every once in a while you might find a gem on it, and like the Sega Saturn. I love the Sega Saturn now because I found all these weird games that are actually good, but it's not a good console, guys. This is not a good console, and there's no cool factor to it. There's not a single hidden gem on this because everything on it can be played on something else. I said Microsoft's Xbox was terrible. I said Stadia was terrible. But this is just saddening. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. Be safe, everyone. Don't buy the Atari VCS. Comment down below how much you hated this video. And goodbye. See you in the next one.